one single outlet there. See, we'll have an over sink light there, so we'll need one there. See, we'll have a single outlet by the sink and a single outlet down here by the heater. And we're gonna run an outlet in here, so we'll get a single for that. That's in the mechanical room. Need a box for this light here in the bathroom. That'll work. And then I broke the triple gang box there. This makes me nervous when I see tape on the box. That means somebody opened it before, probably. Now I'm seeing lots of tape. Good, so looks like that light box will work fine. And then we're going to be installing a light in here. So we'll need a light box for the mechanical room. And then I'm hoping we can fit a single gang switch box in here. So the door's gonna open that way, so it'll make sense to have the switch here. It's definitely gonna be tight. We may have to use a shallow box on that, but I'll get a single gang box for that just in case. This is the breaker for the washer, or excuse me, for the dryer, and the breaker for the 240 volt heater. That's a 20 and a 30. Let's see, I think I might have other breakers. Let me look. Well, we've definitely got the mother load of switches, but I don't see any breakers. I'm pretty sure we're going to put the garage outlets on two separate breakers, garage east and garage west. But down here on the bottom of the panel, I think the bottom four will accept a double breaker. And I think that makes a lot of sense to try to keep as much of the garage kind of low in the panel as possible, and then reserve these upper slots for the house. So I don't know if we're going to be able to find this at our hardware store, but we need one double 20 amp, and that's for the garage outlets, so east and west. But then we also need one double for the bathroom and for the kitchenette. So we'll make that two double 20 amp breakers. I think the bath fan we're going to put on a timer, so we'll get a fan timer. Well, I think that's getting close to a materials list that we need to keep going here. There's still a couple of wire runs that I want to pull later, but I better go get this stuff first. Oh yeah, I forgot to share. So the heater ran just fine all night. I actually went to sleep feeling pretty good about it. It ran pretty well last night, just fine while we were in here working, and looks like it's still doing a great job. So we'll see. We're supposed to get into the 20-degree temperatures next week, and that'll be a true test of whether the heater can keep up. We'll have to see what its total run time is. I'm hoping for about a third. So it'll be on for 20 minutes, off for 40. That could be wishful thinking. We'll see. Thank you to our friends who brought us Krabbies. Things are going smooth. It's gonna be a long night. It's been a busy, hectic day, like always. A lot of scrambling for supplies and stuff. As usual, we get a lot of time to work on the house on the weekends, but nobody's open, so you kind of have to be ready for the whole weekend. So last night we did really good getting a lot of the wire pulled, and I've got a pretty simple goal today, and that is basically get us to where we're ready for sheetrock. But that's not really a small goal. I wanted to get all of these wires pulled through here last night because one of the things that we learned from the electricians about building code is that you're limited to 3 Romex wires per 1-inch hole. And as you can see, you can't really get that many 1-inch holes in your studs. So you really have to think about your circuitry and how the wires are going to work. It looks to me like we've done pretty well. This upper run here goes to the bathroom fan, and we saved ourselves 1 wire run by running a 14-3. I'm pretty sure that's okay because all we're going to be running is an LED light and the fan. But once we go 14, I think we have to stay 14, so we did. We went from 14 from the light to the fan. Anyway, I think that'll work good. So now there's still room in this 1-inch hole for 1 wire. I think keeping as much of this wire in these walls as possible makes a lot of sense. This orange wire over here is for the dryer. I like the idea of pulling that wire through to that outlet there and keeping it all in this wall. But I'm torn because the outlets on the garage wall will start about here. And once they start, we can actually daisy chain through the ICF and then come up out of the ICF over here near the garage door and move over to the man door and bring that down to the outlets that'll be by the man door. The other option is we've got to come through the I-joist like we did with that orange wire and then come down into the ICF. In my mind, that's better than having the orange wire coming down because that orange wire has to go into these studs, whereas the outlets can actually go into the ICF. So I'm kind of stuck a little bit, if you can tell, on whether to pull that orange wire back out and run it over to the dryer outlet or to run a home run from the panel over to here so that we can get into the ICF and start running the garage outlets. Well, crud. I pulled on some wires and did some kind of yanking and pulling, and I think I damaged something. So I guess I get to stop and try to figure out what I did to the heater. Code E3, moisture entrapment heater or electrical short to ground at room temperature sensor. That seems more plausible. Well, some of you guys probably called what happened. So, you know how I was stapling that wire that I brought down here for the temperature sensor? Yeah. Well, a couple of the staples definitely removed some of the sheath. Wouldn't have been a big deal, except for 2 things. One, I was dragging that big old wire across the top, and I guess I somehow or another managed to yank the white wire. Not sure what I was doing there. And 2, the staples are metal. So what they ended up doing was shorting out the 2 wires to each other, and the old heater wouldn't operate. So I think I'm gonna run a new wire, not right now, but I'm gonna run a new one of these wires, and I'm gonna find a different strategy for those staples because that clearly punctures that sheath. Rookie mistake. Really? Wow. Wow. It's gonna suck. I think that hole right there is wishful thinking right there. So we're gonna have to do something like that. Well, I found a double win, guys. With this nailer here for sheetrock, there's a little trough inside this rafter or whatever it is. And so I wasn't going to use this for some reason, and I can't remember why, but I'm going to run this guy down through that trough, but I do have to staple it. Pretty sure it has to be stapled like every 3 feet. But if I can run it through this guy, down through the top plate here, and then across to the dryer box, we actually have more than enough wire, which works out really good. So the good news is there's still room in this 1-inch hole to bring wire over here for our outlet home run. Oh, it's like the 15th time you've fallen down, guy. Sure, let's put you up there one more time. I had a theory, guys, that the only difference between a soldering iron and a hot knife was basically the thickness of the element. So I did a little experiment the other night, and I took the tip off of my soldering gun. You guys probably noticed this yesterday and you thought, what kind of tip is that? So I actually just made this out of copper wire from one of the cutoffs from something we were working on earlier in the project. And I tested it, and it totally works. So now we're gonna test it out and see if we can hot knife a groove for that wire. I can see that we're already gonna have problems with length, but let's just see how bad this goes here. So there's a stud there. See if it'll go through it. Let's say it works. But getting through that stud is definitely not easy. Get a little deeper. Now I can actually see the stud. There we go. That'll work. Well, it's not going to be lightning fast, but I think it's going to get the job done. Thankfully, there's not a ton of this to do. I took the time while I was at it to make one of these for the double gang boxes. It's a bit of a long story, so you have to stay tuned to see kind of how we're going to do that. I can tell you that the ICFs are now becoming somewhat difficult. Anyway, we'll use that later on down the road, and hopefully we can just hot knife for the boxes. See, I was going to go through there, but I think that's going to suck pulling that much wire through there, so I think I'll start here. The 20th time that stupid thing's falling off. Let's see, I can still go 2 to there and 2 to there, and then I gotta go to 3 to there. crud. I just realized a tip that the electrician gave me, which was to strip the wire before you put it in the box. That way you don't have a bunch of insulation, because I can't get my strippers in there. So he suggested that you strip it and you leave maybe just like an inch inside the box. That way you can manipulate the wires, but the insulation it's not outside the box. That's really important. So, gosh, I just pulled I don't know how many wires into how many boxes. So we'll go back and see if we can do this right. You guys probably noticed me measuring this staple, and it's a good thing I stopped to look at my notes from the electrician. So on a single gang box, that's one of these guys, with a complete knockout, when you knock this out, it just disappears. It's gone. And there's no strain relief. But on these 3 gang and double gang boxes, this is actually a strain relief right here. It's kind of a pinch clamp. So if you push it down, it doesn't break off. It actually bends back and puts kind of pressure on the wire. So it's very difficult to pull the wire back through. So according to the electrician code, on a single gang box, there has to be a staple within 8 inches of the box. On any double or triple gang boxes, you can be 12 inches. And I'm not within 8 inches. I don't know if an inspector would fail us on that. I doubt it. But it's really easy to throw another staple in there. I think it's 10 cents. So I'm just making sure that as I go through, I'm making sure I'm taking care of these details. I'm guessing that's true on these lighting boxes and stuff. And then you're allowed 2 strands of Romex per staple. And you have to support the Romex every 4.5 feet. The holes in the wall, the studs, count as support. But in between the studs here, we need to have support every 4.5 feet. So I guess technically, once I come out of this box, this staple, I could go 4.5 feet with no support and be fine. I guess in my over-controlling brain, it feels good to put a staple there just to kind of quarantine that wire. Details. Looks to me like this thermostat requires a single gang box. I just realized I forgot Alyssa asked me to feed the hot tub. That will not go over well. I'm just kidding. Alyssa's a dream. But I better go check on that really quick. Oh, it's close. Very close. 100. Well, if I want to join Alyssa in the hot tub tonight, I better get a move on. So I think I'm going to focus on getting all the wire pulled and get the boxes basically ready for drywall. And then what else do I need to do? Oh, yeah, the big problem with this vent for the fan. I guess I don't technically have to have that done to put the drywall on, technically. But I think it would make sense to be able to access it from the bottom here. Yeah. All right, time to focus. $102. Nice. Send text message to Alyssa.
What do you want to say?
Hot tub is 102. You ready to go in?
Ready to send it?
Yeah.
I'll send your message.
Cruising right along. I had the heaters installed, the fans installed, I got my light boxes installed, the switch boxes are installed. All the wires are ready. They're tucked into the boxes. I got everything stapled. And while I'm waiting for Alyssa to let me know if she still wants to even hot tub tonight, it's getting pretty late, so that happens to us a lot, guys, where we heat the hot tub and then it gets late and we decide just to not even bother. We always call it insurance for tomorrow, but tomorrow we rarely get in the hot tub too. So while I'm waiting on her, I kind of want to look at this. So here's the thing. I learned something today that totally makes sense, but I never really thought of it this way. If I was gonna plumb this fan before noon today, I probably would have used the flexi ducting and probably run it over to a stud and then kind of stayed tight to the stud. And then, I don't know after that, probably run it up to one of those joists up there. And then figure out how to get a 90 in there, which they do make 90s. And then run it over to the rim board, at which point we go through the wall to the outside, right? Well, it turns out that you can use PVC for this. And it makes a lot of sense in my mind because it's exposed. Kind of the way this ABS plumbing vent is exposed up here. It's very rigid. And since we're going to be using this for storage, I don't think we really want flexi ducting or anything sticking out there because it's going to get banged. It's going to get hit and it's going to get damaged, and then you're stuck with trying to reroute a bunch of flexi ducting, right? Not fun. So check this out. The Schedule 40, I guess I didn't really even think about this. Schedule 40 PVC is actually rated for drain, waste, and vent. And I know a lot of people have asked us on the plumbing, why the heck would you use ABS? And the simple answer to that is, that's what's code here. I know, right? So other places, you would never use ABS. It would be like against the rules to use that for waste. And here, that's code, which just goes to show there's no standard, people. So if you think there's a standard, it's probably just in your area. And if you go 2 states over, it's going to be completely different. So here's the thing about Schedule 40. If you look carefully at the stamp on the pipe, you'll see DWV. That's important because this is not sewer. This is not sewer PVC. This is drain, waste, and vent pipe, and it's schedule 40. So if you look at the thickness, it's just as thick as the ABS that we've been using. Of course, all you plumbers have already fallen asleep because you know this, but I don't think this is common knowledge. In fact, this one is stamped for drain, waste, and vent only. So I guess what they're saying there is don't use it for sewer? I don't know. So the good news is our local hardware store started carrying this recently, apparently. And I think the idea is that when you kind of look up at the ceiling or whatever, you can see black is probably drain in this state, and white is probably a vent. And I don't know if you can go from black to white. I don't know if that's permissible or not. I think they'll fit together, but that doesn't mean that's a good idea. I do know they sell an adhesive that's for ABS to PVC, which makes sense, right? So I want to test this because this is a rigid piece of pipe, but the problem is right here. So in my mind, I'm going to be coming, let's pretend this piece of tape right here is the vent fan. It's going to come across through the rafter. It's going to turn and go up into the ceiling, and then it's going to turn and go out the wall. And if I have to, I bought a 45, which will help me to aim the waste, or the vent. So this can turn to 45, and then I can bring this out wherever I want to make the connection to the rim board. So I got myself a 45. But here's the bad news. This connection is 4 inches on the outside diameter, and it's going in a 2x4 ceiling, which is 3.5 inches. So that doesn't work when we get to the fitting. So what I was wanting to test is whether the pipe would even fit in that 2x4 gap. The pipe is 3.5 inches, which means it must be 3-inch inner diameter. It is. So in theory, it'll fit, but it's tight. So unfortunately, I was at the hardware store when I was kind of coming to this conclusion and realizing how this material could be used. So what I didn't know is whether there's enough room for that pipe in here. I think the answer is yes. So there's about a little over 1/4 of an inch to this plywood, but that plywood's not sitting down tight. So there's 1/4 of an inch above it, and all we need is 1/4 of an inch below it, which would put us at 3.5. So I think that rigid pipe will fit. And then we'll have to get over here to the fitting, and I don't know what to do there. I feel like the fittings may kibosh this whole idea. Read text messages from Melissa.
Going in now. Say yeah if you join me. Would you like to reply?
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
Heck yeah, I'm gonna join you. I'll be right there. I'll see you out there. Goodbye. You know, I'm thinking the goal right now is to get this bathroom like functional. And I know that the bathroom fan vent is part of that. But I feel like maybe in the interest of not A, working too late tonight and making a decision I regret, and B, not really hanging up the sheetrock, I think I'll work on the vent. Then I can get up on the platform up here without the plywood up there and work on that. All right, that's the plan. Well, not a bad day. I feel like today I spent a lot of time getting materials, and actually I spent a lot of time trying to understand that bathroom vent. I guess it's worth mentioning really quick. This is kind of that flexible ducting, and it's okay. It works. It's not that easy to clean for what that's worth, and being in a bathroom, you know, it's going to get a lot of humidity going through there. So I guess with that considered, the PVC makes a lot of sense because you could run a ducting brush through it if you had to clean it. Although, quite frankly, I don't know that many people that clean their ducts. There are duct cleaning companies out there, but statistically not very many people use them. All right, guys, time to go join the lady in the hot tub. And then tomorrow, I think she's gonna join me for sheetrock. Fun. I think we're gonna get ready for white boogers. How is it?
That's really nice. Perfect temperature, I think.
Ho ho ho. Oh yeah. Totally worth it.
It's been a while.
I know, right? For once we heated it and got in.
I know. It's not like us.
Normally we're just very interested in heating it. It's pretty rad to be in the house working and I came outside and I realized I didn't know it was raining.
Yeah. I don't know
like-
it's raining till Bugaboo comes in soaking wet.
Yeah, the thermometer says it's raining.